Hey everybody, it's Julie Quinn here, and I'm going to go over Module 3 in this quick video with you. And I want to take you to one of my favorite authors' websites just to sort of show you, because I mentioned that I think like a week or two ago, and I'm actually going to show it to you today in this video. So Module 3 is building your platform's hub, your website, or blog. You don't have to do both. You don't have to buy into an expensive website. There are ones that I think are great. I was talking to one of your classmates through email about this, and I mentioned Wix, but Wix is kind of expensive. I mean, I guess if you know, if you want to spend like $16 a month, that if you don't feel ready to launch, you may not be ready to do that yet. So just note, as you're building this platform this week, you do not have to use an expense. You're not going to be graded on the fanciness of the website or blog you choose. It's more about sort of like what kind of content are you going to convey. And the idea is that you're launching this. You're not expected to be an expert. So I don't want you to panic about that. Okay. So you'll note that we have a module introduction, and these are the things that we're going to be working on this week. You'll choose one of those chapters from the Create Your Writer platform from the library and review the document Best Practices in Author Website and Blog Creation. Okay. Then you will submit your initial post for the Creating the Show. So we've got that discussion. You will read chapter 1 if you selected a website, or chapter 2 for the blog, because blogs and websites do different things. And my favorite author's website is a blog. So I'm going to show you that, and we can kind of talk about those distinctions. And I think at this point, most people know the distinctions between blog and website. These chapters support you and the real work. So you're just sort of creating the shell this week. You don't have to populate it with everything. Please note that you definitely don't have to do that. If you're going to use WordPress, view the WordPress guide to support yourself here. We're planning on website or blog shell and social media channel. Your social media channel would be something like your Twitter, your TikTok, Instagram, and so on and so forth. And then chat with your classmates and start the process. You know how you wrote your author bio? That could be something that could go onto this blog or this website. So in the module overview reading, you've got some discussion about website and blog. And you can see how one is, well, let's just talk about the differences really briefly. Website is more static than a blog. Newspaper, I teach my students who we used to write entire blog. We used to create and sustain blogs all semester in one of my former classes. And a blog is a place where writer and readers can interact. The news back in the dark ages when I was a kid, when the web came out in the 90s, I guess I was not a kid. I was in my 20s then. But when news websites sort of evolved, there was no option for a comment space. And certain news organizations like CNN don't leave room for comments. And organizations like maybe MSNBC and Fox News do, that there's a lot of interplay between reader and writer. A website generally does not have a space for author comments, or for reader comments, excuse me. But blogs do. Blogs are organized. Let me show you Robert McCammon's blog for a second, one of my favorite authors. This is a blog. So his website is a blog. It's got these different tabs with information that is more static, but you've got information delivered in reverse chronological order. And you'll notice that in his blog, there's choices that are made. You can have comments turned on. And normally if you see comments, you'll see comments here, they would appear below each. And it's in this reverse chronological order. So you'll notice in a blog that the most recent posts appear at the top, and then the older posts move down toward the bottom. On the right-hand side, we've got some audio greetings. We've got links to audio and ebooks. You've got just some updates and news. So blogs provide information, usually toward the left with tables of contents and other interesting bits of data. You can see like this blog takes up the first 2/3 of the most recent updates. And then this right 1/3 has different information like cover art for books and different things like that. So you can see all of this, and you can see how McCammon and his website, his blog manager, has used social media links, Facebook, Twitter, and to share. So this information can be spread far and wide. So that's actually really interesting. What you also find is if you click in on the community tab, for example, you'll see that Facebook group that I talked about maybe in my first recording, the collection group. So people who are collecting like first editions and things like that. And then you can join a guest book or a mailing list. You see links to interviews, links to media. So what's really cool about this is that this is a blog that's run like a website. So he doesn't encourage a lot of interaction. And I think sometimes the reason for that could be twofold. If the author's fairly popular, not having a lot of comments could make other readers wary of, there's not a lot of interest in this. So sometimes turning off comments is not that you're expecting spam, you're expecting people to start fighting in the comment section, but it's a way to control the way you are perceived and how big your audience could be perceived. So it's kind of subtle in not doing that. Let's take a look for Stephen King for a second. And let's see what he's got here. The official Stephen King website. You can see on here that it looks like it's a website and not a blog with the way that it is set up. We've got a scroll of books and images, and just like McCammon's links to content. You can order this book. You can do X, Y, and Z. You've got information on all of his books listed here. And at the bottom, we have sections of latest news. So what a lot of the authors do is they have an author section. They have a news. They have an FAQ. McCammon had links to his community pages and so on and so forth. But here's the King's bio. And it's a long bio. And then there's the mini press bio. By the way, that's what we were working on in prior weeks. So if you were to post anything, do a mini press bio. And of course, he's so prolific that he's got film and TV appearances, his photo gallery. You don't have any expectation that you have to build your content out that way. But you can see how both of those authors, one is using sort of a blog format, but limited without the comments. One is just using a straightforward website without, at least in the front pages, abilities for readers to interact. There are a lot of fan sites that allow those comments and interaction. And even like if you think about subreddits, dedicated to those authors, you can find places for the community to interact. So you're going to be creating your blogs, or your website. So here are the required resources for the week. Back to building your author platform. You're going to choose chapter 1 or 2 based on which style you want. And there's no right way forward. It's just whatever you're feeling right now. And the beauty is after the class is over, can you switch from blog to the website? Can you do both? I wouldn't recommend it because they kind of provide the same information with a slightly different layout. Maybe it's getting more active on social media. I think getting more active tweeting about writing, interacting with other writers, and building your tweets. I don't think a lot of people want to follow somebody who has 7 tweets, but somebody who has 700-800 tweets seems to be somebody who's more actively engaged in the platform. So those are the places where you can continue to establish your social media presence. So it's not just blog and website, but it's these other places. Do you want to have a static space? And then do you want to have an interactive space? I think that is something to think about. So you've got your required resources. We even have that sorry, I'm talking too fast today. It's too much coffee. WordPress guide. You can use Blogger. You can use WordPress. You don't have to spend money on this. And then note as well, we give you some warnings on privacy settings for WordPress. I would do that for now. Privacy, social media, and public personas. I don't want you to getting doxxed. I want you to be safe and careful. The odds of people seeing your work really early on without you having, some of you have a lot of work published, so you have different considerations than some of my students who are like, I'm kind of brand new to this. So set your settings really high on the protection right now. You can ease off of them a little bit later. And this may or may not be the reason why you may want to use a pseudonym. Okay. So milestone 1. If you go into, let's go back to learning modules. I want to go into module 3 for a quick little dab to show you everything. So read the introduction overview and the resources. So we've looked at that in this video. You have a discussion about the creation of website and blog. You're going to talk about this process together. You may glean and get some really good ideas from one another. Okay. So milestone 1 is building this content. So let's take a look at the overview. So this is something that's going to be due at the end of the week. Select a website or blog building tool and create a shell for your blog. The recommended one in the course is WordPress. It's free. That's the most important thing right now. You can always move later to something more fancy like Wix, but I don't think that you have to do that to do really well here. So you'll create a website or blog with your name and headline. You'll have the author bio that we've already practiced. So you'll proofread that, make sure it's crisp and clean, and you'll put it in there. Utilize the resources within the tool that make your blog functional. Play around with some of the settings, but it doesn't have to be hyper fancy. You just want it to sort of represent what you've been talking about with your authorial identity. After creating it, create a document that links to it and a synopsis of your design decision. So this is a synopsis. This is a discussion of, a review of your design decisions. What's the purpose and function of this platform? How do your designs reflect your brand? If you're writing horror, for example, I think a somber, romantic, gothic style will suit your audience's needs. If you're writing sci-fi and you focus on cyberpunk, then you're going to want to have interesting imagery, circuitry, the blend of the human and the machine in your borders, things like that. But again, maybe even if it's just neon and colored choices, that may be all you need for this assignment. You don't have to have designs that look like Kings or McCammons. These are really established writers that have been working in their own genres for years. So here's what I always recommend students do. So for this 3-2 assignment, you'll see all of the categories in the assignment rubric. Use this as a checklist, right? Do you have a name and headline with a unique brand and style? Name and headline needs an audience. Like, does it address the needs of your key audience demographics? Do you have your biography page? And many of you listed all the writing that you're working on, whether it's technical, professional, nonfiction work, or otherwise. So do you include a works in progress page? Are the tool resources functional? Do you just have 2 of them? You know, you don't have to have every single tool in use. I'm very understanding of this, right? Utilize this tool resources and visual design elements, but use the built-in ones. Don't spend hours overthinking it. Includes a functional link to chosen social media channels. So if you have Twitter, link to your Twitter. If you have Instagram, link to your Instagram. Explains the purpose, so you have a synopsis document that explains the purpose and function of your website. You just talk to us about what you've done so far. And then talk about your brand decisions. What themes, what subject matter, what relevant background, and so on and so forth. And of course, articulation of response is 5%, but remember, we're writers here, so pay attention and proofread. I don't expect perfection, but you'll notice there are a lot of little bitty points. And so if you miss something, it's not going to affect your grade overall. But this is your checklist for submitting that assignment, okay? So when you go back into the module, that's the 3.2 assignment. And you'll notice that we've got some recommendations of starting to build that social media channel, whether it's Twitter, whether it's your Instagram, and maybe you have a personal Instagram. I'm not saying link to that. I'm saying create a professional Instagram. Like, I have a friend who has a personal Instagram, but they have a professional Instagram as a chef, right? So then we get to see all of their recipes and the beautiful photography that they take to go with each recipe. And you can kind of see how they have 2 Instagram channels for that. So there's a lot going on, but think about it in this way. It's a lot of little pieces. Tackle a little bit every day. And this can become fun, and doing a little bit every day also gives you an opportunity to proofread. If you try to build all of this in your WordPress site in one day, it can become overwhelming, and you don't want to miss something. So you do a little bit every day. The more practice you get, the more muscle memory you build, and these websites will be off to a great start. You don't have to end with WordPress in 3 years, but maybe this is where you launch. I'm excited to see what you can do, and I'm available all week for questions and support. Just reach out. Take care and have a great day.